Welcome back, everybody. If you're new, my name's Nicholas, and this is Investing Against the Grain. As most of you know, with this channel, I don't have anything scripted. A lot of what I do is just straight off of my mind, stream of consciousness of what I'm thinking in the moment. Sure, I find some certain topics I want to talk about, but a lot of it is very organic when it comes out. None of it is scripted. I'm not reading off anything. These are just thoughts come off my head. That's why sometimes I have a few ums here. Sometimes I have one of those moments right there, just trying to understand or try to think about what I'm trying to say. And so today, when I was walking around downtown, I had this thought, and I want to come on here and again, just as I had that stream of consciousness, just that thought when I was walking around, I want to share this thought with you guys with regards to Giga Berlin and Giga Austin, and why I think it may not be that big of a deal if these keep getting pushed off and delayed for their opening. Now, hear me out about my thoughts on this, and I'd be curious to hear what your take is on this as well. Again, this was just a thought I had. I'm not sure if there's any merit to it, but there might be. So before we get into it, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, and let's see whether or not it matters if Giga Berlin and Austin open. Like I mentioned, a lot of these episodes, or all of these episodes, are just a stream of consciousness. I pick a topic I want to talk about, and then I come on here and I discuss it. Sometimes I'm more passionate than other times. Yesterday's episode, for example, is something I was very passionate about when it comes to FUD or just, general things of anti-Tesla that aren't founded on any kind of real factual basis. But today, this is as organic of a stream of consciousness I could possibly have. I literally was walking around downtown. I had this thought. I went down a rabbit hole within my own mind of this thought. And I decided, you know what? Before I start cooking dinner, and if you're wondering, dinner tonight, we're going to have some gnocchi with meatballs I'm going to make. And we're going to have a nice red wine with it. So pretty excited about that. But anyways, again, so I had this thought and I was like, you know what? I could save this for Monday's video, but I just want to get something out there now before I lose this train of thought. I didn't have time to write it down. So I just kept saying to myself, I need to talk about this. I need to talk about this. So what was my stream of thought? Giga Berlin and Giga Austin. Let's say that they continue to be delayed. They're going to open up inevitably, right? Eventually they're going to open up. But let's say it's June or July or August. What real impact does that have on Tesla? Now, hear me out. My first thought about this was, can Giga Berlin and Austin open right now? What are the limiting factors? Like, let's say we go ahead and get regulatory approvals and they get the thumbs up to go ahead and start producing Model Ys and they can go into production. What's the limiting factor? Well, what we heard from the Q4 earnings call from Zach was that Fremont and Shanghai could have produced even more vehicles, but they were limited based on supply challenges, right? And I'm pretty sure what he was referring to were chips. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to point out. So we know that Fremont and Shanghai could have produced even more vehicles, but the limiting factor were chips. Okay, so that's interesting. And then we've heard some reports, and we know to be true now, is that many vehicles that are shipping out of Shanghai are not going to be as redundant as they once were, right? So within every Tesla, you have two full self-driving computers, and the reason you need to have these dual computers is for redundancy, okay? So they've taken a lot of this redundancy out that's tailored specifically for full self-driving, for autonomy, and they've decided, okay, we're not leveraging this now. We have a huge chip shortage, so why don't we stop doing that in the interim and try to maximize the amount of vehicles we can make by taking those chips? Because again, none of that is needed for safety with a Tesla vehicle. It's purely there for this big Trojan horse of an idea that Tesla has for full self-driving autonomy. We had Zach talking about supply challenges and shortages, and that's why Fremont and Shanghai couldn't have made even more vehicles. And then we hear about Shanghai starting to use less chips or not have this redundancy meant for autonomy. Okay, again, I think the main reason for that is to get more chips so that they can produce more vehicles. All right, so those are two signs that we have right there. And so if you extrapolate that out and think about Austin and Berlin, let's say those factories, again, they got full approval, everything's good to go, they're allowed to start producing vehicles. Does Tesla have the chips for it? So that was my thought, right? Like, what if Tesla doesn't have the chips for it? What if Tesla does not have a ample amount of chips or some other limiting factor to the vehicle, some other bottleneck, right? It could be anything, right? It could be any one of thousands of components that could be the limiting factor, because there's clearly a bottleneck somewhere, because Fremont and Shanghai could have produced more vehicles, but they didn't. And we do know there's a chip supply shortage. And we do know that Tesla is starting to, with only the international vehicles, not the ones based in the United States, that they're starting to look at them and they're starting to use less of this redundancy meant for autonomy and full self-driving. So if Berlin and Austin wouldn't actually be able to have all of the resources and material needed to ramp, then is it that big of a deal if they don't open it right away? Is it that big of a deal if things are pushed back? Like, I get it. It's annoying. It really is. I want these factories to open just so that we can, have that excitement about it. But at the same time, if you think from a Tesla investor perspective, when those factories open up, they are actually going to be a negative on Tesla's earnings as they ramp up. The reason is because the way depreciation works on a per vehicle created basis, right? In other words, the less volume, the more it weighs on Tesla's earnings. However, the more vehicles they produce, then things get spread out based on each vehicle produced. So it was just a thought exercise I was having on whether or not it matters, and whether or not maybe Tesla is intentionally not putting the pressure to open up Berlin and Austin. And maybe they're going to open Austin, but they're more patient with Berlin and thinking, okay, maybe it would behoove us and be better for us from a earnings perspective to wait at least one more quarter before Berlin opens. So we're in month 2 of Q1. So maybe they're thinking that it would be best if we actually start to recognize Berlin in April, which would be Q2 of 2022, and we can go ahead and start accounting for Austin now. This would be better from a margin perspective. This would be better from a total earnings perspective, and it would be better for the stock as a whole. So those are just some of my thoughts. I think that there is some merit to this, and I do think that there's some other stuff going on here. I still believe that Austin will open up in Q1 of this year. I think Elon's been pretty adamant about it. They talked about how they anticipate Austin to deliver some Model Ys towards the end of the quarter. So that gives me confidence there. However, they didn't say that about Berlin. So clearly there's more confidence towards Austin than there is to Berlin. And I'm very curious to see how strategic that is. Now, I know that Tesla probably wants to have everything open, everything going, so that, I think they prefer to have chips or some other component be the limiting factor and not have it be regulatory approvals, because that's something you can't control. At least with the supply chain, there are things you can do, right? You can reach out to your suppliers, have them, try to have them produce more. You could offer to pay more for certain parts, right? You could do many different things. You can choose to do more testing with different batches. There's many things you can do. You can work on training more individuals. I mean, Tesla would have a lot of optionality there, but I think Tesla is looking at this as more so, how can we get the best out of this, right? What's the silver lining? And the silver lining may be there's a huge chip shortage. Even if these factories open, we can't really scale them up. We can't get volume production because we don't even have the chips yet. However, as all of these new foundries start to ramp up in the world, right, we're probably going to have a surplus of chips here in the next year or two. And so Elon also alluded to this, that this year, batteries are not the limiting factor at all right? But next year, batteries will become a limiting factor, and that's where the 4680 battery will really start to shine. That's where the 4680 battery will really matter and will set Tesla apart from everyone else. All right, so these are just some thoughts I had. I just want to get out there. It's just I haven't really heard anyone talk about this, so I'm curious, right? I mean, let's crowdsource some thoughts here. I would love to hear what you guys think down below in the comments. We do read them all. I try to get to as many as I can and reply to as many as I can, but it's only myself and my fiance, so we do the best we can, and we do have family in town, so that is also taking up a lot of our time. But again, I want to hear what you guys think, so let me know down below in the comments. Am I crazy? Am I missing something, right? I'm not always right, and sometimes my ideas are just out of left field, and just, there's something very obvious I'm missing. So keep me honest, give me that feedback. All right, we're gonna leave it there. I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend. I hope you have good weather. We finally warmed up, so I get to wear shirts. I don't have to wear my little knit cap, my beanie. So that's nice. I'm enjoying the warmer weather. All right. Well, again, thank you guys, especially if you watched to the end. Do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell. I love you all. Enjoy your weekend. Peace.